glass, apparently. I've just got the news that the Magnum glass is the way to go. Hello, everyone. Magnum glass is what we should be using. I just got the news from Dylan, who is sadly for us busy taking his kids to basketball at the moment, but he's going to try and log in and say hi at about the 6:30 mark or soon after. Hello, John and Cotty. You're the last people to say hello, so I'm saying hello to you first. I think was Fiona the first to log in? Yes, Polly, you can't have any lamb still. Polly's going to stand there and bark at me because I have lamb on the table. Yes, Fee, hi. G'day, Karen and Craig and Joan. Got your lamb koftas, excellent. Jeff and Sue, hello. Hello, David, Kay, Rita, Daryl and Sue, hello. Dan and Paige, hello. I know Paige isn't there, but it seems rude not to say hello back when she's specifically sent a hello message. So hello, Paige. Hello, Cotty and John. So Rita, I will say it again. I just got the message just now from Dylan. He's been very busy this week, and both Jeremy and my attempts to contact him to get him prepared for this have failed dismally. I'm sorry about that, Dill. But anyway, he's just messaged me to say that he likes to drink the wine from a universal glass. So I'm going to use a Magnum glass rather than a Pinot glass, which is what I was thinking I might use. Polly, shush, just calm down. Zach and Jack, hello. I have a decanter. He has suggested a double decant, which I'm not going to attempt here. Thanks, Angela. Yes, I have had my hair cut again. The mullet is going well. The party at the back is really going crazy. The mullet of Kintyre, Peter's calling it. Linda's just got her lamb cutlets. My lamb, I'm not even going to show you my lamb because it looked magnificent all in the thing, but I've just got a little bit to nibble on because I always find it hard to eat and talk to you guys at the same time. So I'm going to have most of my lamb later on for dinner after drinks with Kate, but I've got some lamb for me, and Peter and Jill and Richard have got a little scrap of lamb as well, and Polly thinks that she should have it all. Who else? Okay, so double decant. If you're feeling brave, what a double decant is you decant the wine into a decanter, and then you decant it into a second decanter or back into the bottle. I'm not going to do that because I would need to do that over a sink. So the other tricky bit of kit you'll need is a bottle opener. A waiter's friend, which, we haven't used for a while. Yes, no, I've said hello to everyone. So, Vinya Vella, Grenache, 2023. And I'll tell you more about Dylan as well as this wine in a little bit. But let's get it open first. So, to open a bottle of wine with a cork in it, first of all, we cut the capsule off the top. Happily, to my eyes, this is a Diam, not a natural cork, but it's still a little bit more of a faff than a screw cap. I have a feeling one of the reasons that people, particularly people making Grenache, will use a natural cork rather than a screw cap is that they do have a tendency to get a bit reductive. And with a perfect seal from a screw cap, then you can accentuate that issue. So a little bit of air ingress through a Diam is probably not such a dreadful idea, although it possibly means the wine won't age as long. Who knows? Anyway, wine into slightly grotty decanter. We'll have to give these decanters a bit of a scrub, Richard. They're starting to look a little bit manky. Such a beautiful colour. So Grenache, for me, is... Grenache has been described to me from my very early wine learning days as the warm climate Pinot Noir. And in France, they'll call it the Pinot Noir from the south because they'll grow it in the southern Rhone. and you're right, Polly, Are you okay? You're going crazy. Do you decant the second time straight away? Yes, Cotty. So if you're going to decant it a second time, you will want to either, if you're putting it back in the bottle, I'd tend to use a funnel. Just makes it easier getting it in the little hole. Or if you put it into another decanter, you put it into another decanter. Or we have these amazingly beautiful things called wine glasses, and when you pour it into the wine glass, maybe just pour it from a little bit of a height, splash it around a bit, get it in the glass. Good work, Angela. Double decanted it over the sink. Excellent. I'll pop that decanter over there for Richard and Peter to help themselves when they're ready. And now we have a glass of Grenache. The first thing that I notice is that the colour is very similar. A glass is absolutely just a little decanter down. That's right. And it's Peter and Karen just popped in. Hello, how are you? I'm glad you made it. So I've already got fingerprints on it. This is a problem with lamb. Even if you wash your hands after handling lamb, there's still lamb fat everywhere, but that's all right because it's quite delicious. So you've got this lovely kind of translucent garnet colour to the wine, which is very typical of a Grenache. Grenache is known as Grenache in Australia and France. In Spain, it's called Garnacha. And I mention Spain because part of Dylan's story about falling in love with Grenache has to do with living in Spain and growing and making Garnacha over there. So, yeah, we'll come back to that story in a little while. It's quite nicely told on his website. But, yeah, there's lots of good stuff going on. So, beautiful colour. Give it a good swirl because his sense is that he said to me in his little message, just make sure that you get lots of air into it because it's quite young and it's made with minimal inputs. So it can be a little bit closed and a little bit stinky to start off with, but a bit of air will sort that out. David Inchley, I hadn't realised corks have a year's rating. Is it usually printed on the cork? I haven't looked at the cork, David. So you've caught me out with that little question. I don't know. Because we don't use diams. I can't see a year rating on this cork, David. It says, my cork says Vinya, Vella, sand over clay. It doesn't have a year on it. So... they can be 5, 10 to 30. You're doing a bit of research, are you? I think that has to do with the porosity of the diam, and it's a sort of science that they got into when people started criticising diams for not having enough air ingress ability, and so if they allow more air in, then their ageability will be shortened. So I imagine that's what that means, but I don't really know because to be honest, we don't use diam. I chose not to use diam. It's not a technology that I know a lot about. I think that they've improved a lot over the years since we went to screw cap, but I really like our screw caps, so we're not really thinking about changing anytime soon. Okay, that's enough about diam. Let's talk about the wine. I will say, though, that a perfect cork does exactly the same as a perfect diam. It does exactly the same as a perfect screw cap, which it keeps the air out and wine in. So they all do the same job. But if you're worried about a little bit of reduction in the wine, then a little bit of porosity, and they can dial that up or dial it down with the technology of the diam. So I do know that, and I think that's what they're talking about, David. All right, Craig's got right into the wine. This is a beautiful wine, and you can see why it kind of gets compared to Pinot Noir in a way, because it has that beautiful cherry fruit character. It has a real brightness. Craig's saying tart cherries, beautiful acid line. Just a touch of dust, really complex and yummy. Joan says it's great too. Excellent, Joan. I'm very pleased to hear that. Joan, what did you cook up to go with it? Lamb koftas, I believe, Craig said. So that sounds rather yummy. I nearly went lamb kofters, but I had this lovely leg of lamb in the in the fridge, and I thought, well, good thing to use it for. All right, crunchy red sour cherry on the nose I get, and I do get that little dusty Grenache note. A little bit of raspberry drop in there. It's really juicy. It's got beautiful acid line to it. The tannins are very fine, but they've got this kind of grainy texture to them that's very typical of Grenache. It's almost squeaky in the back of your teeth. If you hold the wine in your mouth and you just kind of squeak your back teeth together, you can almost feel the tannins squeak. It's a weird sensation, and some people look at me as though I'm completely mad when I say that, and some people go, oh yeah, I get it. Grenache, Dan is saying Grenache seems to be having a bit of a renaissance at the moment, and it's a great example. This is absolutely true. I think for a long time in Australia, Grenache was regarded as being pretty subpar as a grape variety, and part of the reason for that was that people were using go back a little step more. You remember me talking about the vine pool scheme in South Australia in the 1980s. Well, Grenache was very much targeted then, and a lot of old bush vines got pulled out during that scheme. People got paid to pull their old vines out and plant new vines, usually planting Chardonnay, Cabernet, a bit more Shiraz. Pretty sad, because those old Grenache vines, they take a lot of work, and they don't produce a lot of fruit, but the fruit that they produce makes beautiful wine like this. And luckily for us, there are a few stubborn grape growers in South Australia, particularly in Barossa and McLaren Vale, who didn't take the money to pull the vines out, but they kept them rubbing up against the crystals stuck in your teeth from last week. Yes, Craig, that's highly possible. Although I hope you've cleaned your teeth since then. I certainly have. But there are some beautiful old vine Grenache vineyards, both in McLaren Vale and Barossa, that didn't get pulled out. And those are the ones that are producing the really high quality fruit. Young Grenache vines produce a lot less exciting fruit, and a lot of the fruit from young Grenache vines tends to go towards either rosé or very light, easy drinking Grenache or Grenache Shiraz blends, that kind of thing, cheap, cheerful wine, which is, and these old bush vines are, as I say, quite hard to look after. They've got massive bases to them. The structure of them is compromised by the fact that they're so old, and they've got some disease in the trunk sometimes, and the disease eats away at the inside of the trunk and just leaves the bark on the outside. So you get these vines that are quite hollow in the middle. They manage to survive with just the tiniest bit of wood connecting the top of the vine to the roots. It's quite incredible, some of these old vines, how they're actually still surviving and producing fruit. And the fruit they produce is small quantities, small bunches, small berries, very dense in aroma and flavour and intensity and complexity. So you get these wines that are really delicious. There's a number of people in Barossa and McLaren Vale who are championing Grenache at the moment, and Dylan is definitely one of those people. Steve Pennell did incredibly well. You're right, Jeff. Got 100 points from Robert Parker for his most recent Super Cuvée Grenache. I can't remember which vineyard it's from off the top of my head, but I read the news and I went, that's great. He was very clever, actually. He put out an offer for it. I don't know whether he did it on purpose or whether it was just really good luck, but he put out an offer for it, and the day after he put out an email saying, hey, we've just got this news that we got 100 out of 100 for the wine. Oh, hi, Paul. What you doing? What you doing? You're throwing a temper tantrum. Do you want to just lie down and relax?
She says she wants more.
She wants more lamb. I think Jill and Richard are going to have to wrangle her. You're welcome to steal a bit more lamb from Beck and Sam and my dinner if you need to. She's on the cashew nuts. Sunrise 99. Thank you, David. $250 a bottle. The mini moods of Paul, absolutely, Shell. I love Grenache rosé, but I also love Grenache that's made in this style. It's beautifully spicy. It's not too heavy. It's definitely not oaky. And I wish I'd had a bit more time to prepare, and I'm hoping that we might get the man himself on the line. But Grenache makes beautiful food wine, and I think it works. It's got those tannins that are very different from Pinot tannins, but it's got the perfume, it's got the lift, and it's got that glorious kind of juicy crunchiness that you get in really good Pinot Noir as well. Craig is asking, would I say this Grenache revival will be short-lived as the vines might not be around in 10 years? Oh, Craig, I think that the vines are now being nursed by people like, so the Smart Vineyard is a very famous Grenache vineyard in McLaren Vale, and the McDonald Vineyard as well, that a lot of people take fruit from. You talk to the guys, the team at Wirrawira, you talk to Steve Pinnell, you talk to Pete Fraser at Yangara, you talk to Dylan Grigg, whose wine we're tasting tonight, and they're really excited about the legacy of the old vines. And in Barossa particularly, they have a really strong old vine legacy, very old Shiraz vines as well as old Grenache vines. But the Shiraz vines have always had the attention in the past because Shiraz is Australia's national grape variety. People, for better or for worse, seem to really embrace Shiraz for its big, rich, earthy, meaty, fruity, everything character. And Grenache gets left behind because it's a bit more elegant, it's a bit prettier. And for me, that's the appeal of Grenache, particularly from old vines. So no, I think, Craig, those old vines need to be nurtured. They'll be around, and they're being looked after very, very carefully. And as they look after and nurture the old vines, people are also planting more new vines, which will take time to get old. But if you wait for long enough, then that age kicks in as well. It was more fruity before food. Coddy's saying with food, the acid's more prominent. Yeah, I think the acid and the tannin. So with the food, depending on what sort of flavours you've got in your food tonight, if it's a bit spicy, then that'll bring up the spice, will bring up a bit more of the fruit. If you've done the lemon and oregano with the slow cooked lamb, the lemon juice will kind of bring up the acid a bit more, which I think is rather cool. The double decant made it so much softer. It's going to get softer as well as you swirl it in the glass. Keep getting air into it. Dan wants to play with Polly and is very confused. Yeah, you have to bring the cockers over to visit and have a bit of a play at some stage. Although Polly's a little bit fussy about who she plays with, as well as what she eats. So the price went up after the announcement. That's right, Jeff, for the Sunrise 99. So let's get back to, I think Kay's got oregano and garlic lamb and a bit of mint sauce. It's so good with the Grenache. I'm going to have a little bit of lamb. I've just got a couple of chunks here on my plate, which are getting cold as I look at them, which is okay because I don't mind cold lamb. It's a different thing. It's really good. I cooked my lamb for about 5 hours, I think, so I went in between the two recipes. I think the meat is bringing up that blackcurrant fruit, Fiona, that you're saying. Now I've got lamb stuck in my teeth. There we go. Definitely rose petal fee, and sometimes a little bit of violet as well. I'm getting more roses, less violet in this wine at the moment, but I think as it opens up and as it airs, it's going to keep changing. So what has made, because if you look at the people who are really kind of championing Grenache in South Australia at the moment, and South Australia is the home of great Grenache. I don't know whether it would work here. It's one of the conversations we're having with Dylan, is whether we should plant a little bit of experimental Grenache here at Moorooduc, or whether it's going to be too cold for it. So we're just trying to see what's happening. You're very upset about this, aren't you, Paul? She's outraged. She's standing here wagging her tail at me, looking at me as though I'm the most unreasonable person in the whole world. Go and have a cashew nut with Richard. She said, no, you've got lamb. They've eaten all their lamb, haven't they? So it's young people who who have discovered Grenache generally, and I'm generalizing hugely here, have generally discovered Grenache overseas, either working in France in the Southern Rhone, or more often working in Spain, in Priorat, absolutely lamb rage, Fiona. Paul, Fee understands that you're having a bit of lamb rage. It is a thing, but you just got to learn to control it. Dad's given her the plate with the lamb juices on it, and she's not impressed. She's like, where are the chunks of meat? So Dylan's story is very much that. Dylan has been a viticulturist for over 25 years, and the way we got to know him is that he and Jeremy worked together at one of Jeremy's previous jobs, and when we were having a bit of trouble with some of our new vines not thriving, we wanted to talk to someone about what to do, and just ignore that. Polly, you're such a prima donna. We got okay, what are people saying? Dan's asking about weird dreams after eating lamb. I don't, Dan, but I think if you eat anything that's too rich and gorgeous and delicious, it can affect your sleep patterns, absolutely. Craig got told you can't grow it in wet environments, hence none in the Hunter, even though it's hot enough, might struggle in your dreary MP weather. Have you seen the weather out here recently, Craig? Hang on. We haven't had enough rain this year, but look at that. Dreary my ass. It's beautiful and sunny. I don't even really need the light, but I got used to using it, so there you go. Okay, so Dylan, as a viticulturist and as a husband and young father of young children, he and his wife and kids went to live in Spain for a few years, and he fell in love with Grenache, as we know it, Grenache, while he was there. When they came back to Barossa, or came back to South Australia, there was absolutely no plan to buy a vineyard, but the opportunity presented itself to buy this property. Vinya Vella is the Catalan name for old vines, so that's why he's called it that. And it's a small vineyard with a large proportion of it planted to old vines. It was rather wonderful. I know, Karen, isn't it gorgeous? Yeah, I think it's been, you guys up in the further north have been having all the rain, and we've been having all the sunshine. So, who knows? I think it's supposed to rain tomorrow, so I should just bite my tongue. David Inchley's talking about the Fighting Gully Road Grenache from Beechworth. That would be delicious, absolutely. Coddy wants to know if our vines got any damage from the frost earlier this week. All your new growth is now mush. I don't think we got frost here at Moorooduc. Being on top of a hill as well as being maritime, I know that you guys are maritime, Coddy, but maybe just being that bit further south, maybe the wind it sort of whipped up the frost for you. I don't know, cold air coming off the ocean, I'm not sure, but no, we didn't get frost. So far the vines are fine and looking very healthy, and happy with some lovely baby potential grape flowers happening. And the other exciting news here at Moorooduc is that the ornamental vine in the courtyard is flowering. So that means we're probably about 2 or 3 weeks away from flowering here. Dad's nodding. I'm getting the hang of all this timing thing. It was -2 degrees on Tuesday at Coddy and John's. Yeah, I don't think it got us. It was cold, but it wasn't that cold here. I'm just going to have a bit of my lammy potato, because I think that's going to give me a different flavour impression of my wine. Also, it looks really yummy. Yeah, so the potato that's been cooked in the lamb juices and lemon juice and olive oil and butter and salt has got all the things that you want to match to wine. It's carbohydrate. It's got the oiliness. It's got the acid. It's got the savouriness. And it really brings out the darker cherry fruit, berry fruit in the wine, as well as some of those rose petal flavours. Really delicious. And a bit of spice. There's a bit of spice coming up now. Just very gentle. Just a little bit of cinnamon spice. A little bit of cardamom. Jeremy, when we were talking about food matches, his kind of dream match to this wine was lamb tagine, so lamb with Moroccan spices, which I think could work really, really well. Linda's gone for lamb cutlets from her local Indian restaurant, which would be, as she said, they're mildly spiced, so they would have some of those similar spices with maybe a bit of chili as well. And I think those flavours can work really well with a wine like this. It's not too heavy in its tannins, and it's not too, it certainly doesn't see a lot, if any, new oak. I should have read that bit of the technical notes before I came on. It doesn't taste like it's seen any new oak at all to me. What do you think, Dad? Are you seeing any new oak characters in this wine? It doesn't, knowing Dylan and his sort of philosophy, I would imagine that he's working so hard to grow beautiful fruit and then make the wine in a fairly hands-off kind of a method. So that would include little or no new oak. It would include not too much sulphur in the winemaking. It was just kind of gentle winemaking, pretty much how we make wine here at Moorooduc, although maybe we use a little bit more new oak in some of our Pinots these days. But, you know, not a lot more, 20%, whereas this might have seen 5% or none. I'm just keeping an eye on my phone because it's nearly 6:30, and Dylan said if he wasn't able to log on to the chat, he was going to try and send me a text message or two with some information. So we'll see what happens. I'll just keep half an eye on that text messaging bit there. Angela's sent me a photo. Oh, that looks nice, Angela. So where was I? Dylan and his family came back from Spain. He grew up in Barossa, not in the wine industry, but it's very hard to not be wine industry adjacent when you grow up in Barossa. And he had the opportunity to buy this vineyard, bought the vineyard. He now owns some beautiful old Grenache vines in a really beautiful part of Barossa. It's sandy soil on clay, so it's one of the reasons that we love working with Dylan, because his vineyard's sandy soil on clay, ours is sandy soil on clay. You know, he really understands how to deal with the issues that you can have sometimes with these soils, and also the incredible benefits that these soils can bring to wine. It's really interesting. More and more more I travel, more I talk to people, the more I realise that some of my favourite wines are grown on very sandy soil. Polly, cut it out. Honestly. She's still got lamb rage. Here she is. She's like, I'm not stopping. Strawberries, Pete, absolutely. Yeah. Strawberries on the nose. Sorry, it's just pandemonium back there. And Dad's trying to get her under control and she's paying absolutely no attention. There's also, for me, there's a tiny bit of sort of coffee granule kind of, that sort of, you know, when you get a sort of sweet fruity coffee that's kind of fruity, but a little bit of bitterness as well. That's rather nice. Kay's getting strawberry tubes now. Polly, Rich is going to get you. He's going to get you. She needs a towel down. She's all wet. She's wet and cold. She's been in the dam. I'm not going outside. Oh, good luck with that. He's trying to take her outside. Bit of sumac, you reckon, Pete? Yeah, maybe. Oh, Dad's going to carry. Hang on. I got to show you what's happening over here. Holly's being carried out in disgrace. I'm not sure if she's going to be dropped. Oh, he's an absolute proof. That's hilarious. Peter Craig's definitely getting the sumac as well, and Kay also agrees. Strawberries and sumac. It's actually not a terrible match, the old strawberries and sumac. It's rather delicious. Anyway, I think this wine is rather delicious. I think we're very, very lucky to be drinking this. And it's really nice. It's, you know, as I said, when we do these friends and family wines, we really like to drink wine that we want to drink first and foremost, of course, but ones that are made by friends of ours who we really appreciate what they're trying to do. And I think what Dylan's doing, not only is Dylan making beautiful Grenache, but he is now a nationwide acclaimed viticulturist. He just won Viticulturist of the Year in the Halliday Wine Companion. He got an award from the wine communicators of, I can't remember who that was, but I also saw that. He and Andrew Kayard, who's another person that I love and think is a complete legend, both got an award. He got his for being a viticulturist. Andrew got his for writing about wine. Zach and Jack are referencing the Financial Review article on Dylan and the vineyard from November 24. If you have a look at Dylan's Vinya Vella website, there's lots and lots of information. He's done much better than Moorooduc has at the moment of getting his press up on his website as well. So that's something we're working on at the moment. So hopefully you'll be reading lots of amazing articles about Moorooduc on our website very soon. What's going on, Tallulah? Are you just sitting there in the hope that there might be some lamb on the floor? Tallulah's a much more polite, bigger for lamb. Cotty, where about in the Barossa are they? I knew you were going to ask me that. They're in the Barossa part of the Barossa? No, they're not. I did read it, and I can't remember off the top of my head. It's in their website. Tanunda. There you go. It says on the back label. I presume the vineyard is near there. Yeah, friends of ours, the Farleys. Those of you who came on the South Australia trip will have spent 3 days with our friend Kim and met his brother Jonathan at First Drop. But yeah, so Tanunda is where they're based. That might be where the winery is, but I imagine that the vineyard is pretty close to there. But Cotty, if you have a look on the website, then that tells you exactly where they are. I'm not very good at my Barossa geography, which is why I was hoping that we might have Jeremy or Dylan. Jeremy, Dylan, anyone? Hello. To give us a little bit more info, but that's okay, because the info is on the website as well. I think the wine is delicious. Dylan has been a great help for us here. It's Vine Vale, thank you, Kay, at the east edge of the valley. That's all right, Cotty. You're allowed to. I'm supposed to have all the answers, I know, but when I have a guest, and I haven't been to Dylan's vineyard yet, I need to go and visit next time I'm in Barossa. It would be Jeremy's here, a London wine retailer. Another MW once described Dylan as the only human that looks at a vine and feels how it feels. I love that, says Jeremy. I think that's a really nice way of putting it. He does know how to get into the mind and the feelings of a vine, which is really lovely. And you see him in the vineyard, and he strides around. He gets a shovel and digs a hole, and we have a look at how the soil profile's working, and he looks at the leaves. And he's a good person to follow on Instagram because he's very engaged with what's going on in the vineyard, and you'll get lots and lots of vineyard information from him, which is usually pretty digestible and easy to follow. His PhD is in vine age, absolutely, Kay. And if you guys wanted to come to a really, really awesomely geeky wine event in a couple of years' time, he's going to be one of actually, I'm probably not allowed to tell you this. I probably can't say this on. But anyway, there will be some excellent speakers, and one of the sessions will be focusing on old vine wines as part of the Master of Wine Symposium in Adelaide in 2027. So yes, that's all I can say at the moment. But watch this space and have a look on the Institute of Masters of Wine website to find out more about that, because that's going to be really cool. I might be involved in the organising committee for that event as well. So watch this space. I can certainly see, when you read his story and his absolute fascination with old vines and what they offer to a wine. When he had the opportunity to buy this vineyard, how could he possibly say no? Because to plant a vineyard and let it grow old, you just don't get the opportunity to do that in a lifetime. Some of his vines are over 100 years old. He is the custodian of those vines for now. And I think, to be honest, it's highly unlikely that I will see any of our vines get to be 100 years old, because our oldest vines here are 12, 13 years younger than me. And so for them to be 100 years old, I would have to be significantly more than 100 years old. So, maybe my nieces will, but it's pretty awesome to be able to look after beautiful old vines and beautiful old vineyards. The bush vines in South Australia are pretty cool as well. They have a character all to themselves. They're apparently hard work to look after, but also incredibly rewarding. And it feels to me that the people who are making great wine from these bush vines, when I talk to Dylan, when I talk to Steve Pennell, when I talk to Pete Fraser from Yangara, when I talk to the team at Wirrawirra, they have this incredible reverence for their vines, and they sort of know each vine personally in a way. And they're like, oh, these vines over here are on a particularly dry, sandy bit of the vineyard, so they take a bit longer to ripen. And these ones over here have a bit of, they're a bit smaller, they need a little bit more love. These ones over here are really happy and sort of a bit over exuberant. It's the knowledge that these people have of their vineyard by necessity with their old vines is pretty awesome. So, Craig is asking if I can facilitate a deal for more. I can certainly make inquiries, Craig. I'm sure Dylan would love you guys to have some more of his wine in his cellar. I will have a talk to him and see if we can facilitate something for sure. He doesn't make a lot of wine, so like us at Moorooduc, I imagine he probably doesn't discount very much or if at all. But, to get hold of these wines is pretty special. Rita, do you find that Grenache has a lower price point in that you can get a great bottle for a reasonable price point? Absolutely. You can get a very good bottle for a reasonable price point, Rita, but you kind of get what you pay for. And so if you're looking for Grenache from, old vines, they're a lot more work. So it's more expensive to grow them. It's more expensive to get the fruit. You get less fruit, so it's more expensive per bottle because you need more vines, all of that stuff. So that's why it gets more expensive. You can absolutely buy less expensive Grenache, but it's often a big leap between great Grenache from old vines, which are a bit more expensive. Richard's got Polly. Oh, bless you, Dad. Thank you. Richard's got Polly on a lead and a towel to give her a towel down to calm her down, and she's looking lovingly at him with gratitude. But yeah, I think there's a big price difference and a big quality difference between entry-level cheaper Grenache from young vines and high quality Grenache from older vines. Craig's saying that the Yangara entry is the best $35 you can spend outside Devil Ben Creek Pinot. I think that's a very good call, Craig. I think go for a producer that makes something delicious. The Wirrawirra Grenaches are pretty good, but they're not super cheap. Anything below $35, I think, for a Grenache, you're really going to struggle to find something exciting. It'll be yummy and kind of juicy, and usually a bit of kind of raspberry jelly kind of fruit in the younger vine styles, but it's that old vine material that gives you the complexity and the depth. And that's why I think Grenache got a bad name, because people didn't have the patience to wait for the old vines to give them good fruit, and the old vines are very expensive to to run. So it was hard to get good prices for old vine material, and people didn't understand the difference. So I think buy good Grenache, spend a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, Shaw & Smith. Thanks, Kay. Kay bought the Shaw & Smith when she was there and thought it was the best of the trip. How much was the Shaw & Smith Grenache, Kay? I can't remember. It wouldn't have been cheap, but it probably wasn't as expensive as some. You don't have to spend $250 to buy a good bottle of Grenache. That Pinel Grenache is right up there price-wise. Angela's asking what a bush vine is. Does it mean that's not trained along the wise? Absolutely. So a bush vine, they also talk about goblet training, or gobelet in French. A bush vine is a vine that's grown without trellising. So it tends to have sort of a heavy base to it, but not a long stem. And it sort of is trained. So you've got canes coming out from the base of the vine, and they're kept at a certain length, and they will get older and older and thicker, and then I think possibly spurs. I'm not exactly sure how bush vines are pruned, but I think possibly spurs for the fruiting bits. But yeah, it's a bit, because I've never worked with them. It's a little bit of a mystery to me how they work. But they look like a bush. They look like rather than a little tree on wires, they look like a little bush, and the fruit tends to kind of grow inside them. They work best in hot, dry climates or warm, dry climates, because when there's a lot of disease pressure, if it's wet, or if it's cool, if there's not a lot of wind going through the vineyard to kind of dry things off, then you can get rot in a bush vine. One of the reasons that we trellis vines in a cooler climate like the Mornington Peninsula is that it helps air flow through the vine, so that it's better disease control. So you get more of a chance of having clean, ripe fruit at the end of the whole growing process, which is ideal. Cotty recently had a Cannonau from Sardinia. Yes, it is Grenache, absolutely. So Grenache has lots of different names depending on where it's grown. Okay, you're saying that the Shaw & Smith was about 65. Yeah, I think that's pretty normal for a high quality Grenache. Somewhere between $45 and $85 is what you'd be expecting to pay. That wine's got really meaty as it's opened up. There's a really lovely kind of roast meat kind of a smell to it now. It's still got a bit of raspberry and cherry, but it's just starting to get a little bit meatier. What, Pete? Strawberry too. Yep, strawberry as well still. So, I've got a little chip in my glass. That must be one of Richard's special glasses. Or it hasn't been culled. Anyway, it's all right. How would you identify Grenache versus Pinot in a blind tasting? So, Kay, for me, it's about the shape of the tannins. Dan's getting a charred meat vibe. Yeah, barbecue meat. Not burnt, but just flame grilled. So for me, Grenache versus Pinot Noir, the tannin shape is really different. You get similar fruit expression, strawberry, cherry, raspberry. Pinot Noir will often have different spices, but they can also be quite similar. But the tannins are different. The tannins in Grenache are not silky. They're kind of grainy and, as I said, squeaky on the teeth. So you have a mouthful of Grenache, and instead of having that silky, velvety kind of a texture to it, it has kind of more of a grippy, grainy, chalky, kind of drying, dusty feel on the palate. And that's what gets me to Grenache. It's hard. Not all Grenaches are this pretty. Some Grenaches are quite dark and savoury, and quite a lot of them have more new oak in them. So they can be quite big, heavy wines as well that you wouldn't confuse with a Pinot Noir. But this one is very Pinot Noir-like, but it's still, I think, a bit different. It's like when you sometimes get a Nebbiolo and you go, oh, it's got so much perfume, and it could almost be Pinot Noir, but the texture is different. Zach and Jack, Mencia and Grenache considered quite similar then. No, they're different again. No new oak for this one. That's what I thought, David. It doesn't taste like it's got any new oak, and that fits with my understanding of Dylan's philosophy. I think Mencia tends to have more blue fruit, Jack and Zach. It is a bit like Pinot and Nebbiolo had a baby, Dan. Absolutely. Craig's getting a little bit of Beaujolais bubblegum there in Grenache, which is confusing because it's not Beaujolais either. It's not Gamay. But yeah, I agree. There's a bit of lolly shop in Grenache. There's a bit of bubblegum. There's a bit of raspberry or strawberry lolly. There's a bit of chocolate or cocoa sometimes comes up in Grenache. Yeah, it's sort of, if you're in South Australia, it's what you drink when you can't get Pinot because it's too warm. It's pretty awesome, huh? Okay, I think the rise of popularity of GSM has also helped raise Grenache's profile. Absolutely. And just back to your question, Rita, about finding something that's good value. If you're looking for a really good value wine style and you're not afraid to go out of Australia, then a lot of Côte de Rhônes have got a lot of Grenache in them. They often have a little bit of Shiraz and sometimes a bit of Mourvedre in them, and they're very good value for money. You can buy a Gigal Côte de Rhône for $20, $25 a bottle, most places, certainly less than $30 a bottle. And there's a lot of really nice GSMs, also GST. Sometimes people put a bit of Touriga in the mix from South Australia. And those wines are very user-friendly, easy drinking. They're a little bit, they're sort of the more usual South Australian version of the Ministry of Clouds LDR that we had the other week. That's a Pinot Noir, Gamay, and Shiraz blend. But your more traditional blend in South Australia is your Grenache, Shiraz, Mourvedre blend, and those wines are great value for money and pretty delicious midweek drinking, I think. Polly, have you got a coat on? You got a towel on? Can't get away. She's very confused. Guys, I am getting to the end of my Peninsula is probably too cold for Grenache, Rita, but cool climate Grenache is very trendy at the moment, so we're doing a bit of research on that. Who knows? It's not so much the hot, it's the dry that I think Grenache needs, but I don't know enough about it, and this is why we're talking to Dylan. He's our Grenache expert, and if he tells us not to grow Grenache here even experimentally, we probably won't. If he says give it a go, then we probably will. Only 8 vines or something just to see what might happen, but many years ago, Rockford sold a straight Grenache very cheap because it wasn't popular. I know it because it's become popular. It's become more expensive, which is a shame for those of us who love it. But it also means it's getting better and better. Where Kay said Richard told me he was mad planting Pinot Noir back in the 80s. That's absolutely true. He was told that would never work. So who knows? Anyway, team, I'm going to have to love you and leave you because I've got some very important house guests meeting me at my house in about 12 minutes. So I'm going to have to get out of here. It's been delightful. The wine is delicious. 8 vines would be fun, Jackie. We can make just a little tiny batch of stuff. I hope you've enjoyed the wine. Peter and I have played around with the order of wines for the next few weeks. Next week is Derby Day, and we're going to do the Pinot Gris on skins. The following week, we are actually going to have a little break in proceedings because I've been asked to do a wine dinner that I couldn't say no to. And then I'll be back the following week with whatever we're having then. Robinson Pinot, maybe? Chardonnay? Robinson something? Anyway, we'll get there in the end. Thank you, everyone. It's not that it's Cotty. I'd just been to the hairdressers yesterday, so that's my glam look. Also new earrings, so I thought they were quite cool. It's also sunny, so I can wear something a little bit lighter. Thank you. I love this guest wine as well, Angela. Thank you so much. I will drive safe, Zach and Jack. They've got a key, so they can get themselves in. They're all fine. Oak Day dress-ups. Everyone can wear a hat for the races on Oaks Day. We're going to drink Pinot Gris on skins. I haven't worked out what we're going to eat. I'll send you an email on Monday. If you're taking Monday off for an extra long weekend, have a lovely one. Thank you very much, everyone. It's been lots of fun. Dylan, if you're listening, we missed getting to chat to you, but we love drinking your wine. Keep up the good work. Absolutely delicious. Here's to old bushvine Grenache. Kay will be in Maroonville next week. Take your hat. Good, excellent. It's all right because I can't see you anyway. I will see you all next week. Thank you so much. And thank you for putting up with Polly's shenanigans. I'm very excited by the lamb. So we'll just have to see what happens now with what's left over. Craig, I'm not even going to read that out. Very bad. Okay, cheers, everyone. Love you lots. Take care. See you soon. See you next week. Cheers.